I'd like to call to order the Rutherford County School February 6th work session. We are now going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Tidwell has arranged that. So, Mr. Tidwell, take it away.
It is my honor to introduce Dr. Brown, principal at Daniel McKee Alternative School. The staff at our alternative schools typically don't receive the same amount of public praise for the work that they are doing, but we couldn't do school without them. I know these individuals care deeply about the students they interact with. We have some of them here tonight. It takes a servant's heart to do the work that they do every day, and we extend our gratitude to you and your staff. And with that, Dr. Brown, if you wouldn't mind introducing everybody.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Tidwell, for putting the spotlight on us tonight. We appreciate that. We have several staff members here from Daniel McKee, but specifically we're spotlighting our educational assistants tonight, and I'd like to introduce those. Ms. Shanklin, Ms. Wallace, Ms. Dowd, Mr. Juergens, and Ms. Ritchie.
And if you'll all stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to add my praise to all of you. First of all, thank you, Daniel McKee people, for coming to see us. And second, EAs, Mr. Tidwell, thank you, because I don't know that EAs ever get the credit that they deserve. We tried to take care of y'all a little bit better this year, and I think you're a little happier. But we do want to thank you for all you do. We could not do our education without you.
I just had the pleasure, so I got to see Ms. Shanklin in action today, so she's back there. I was in a math classroom, so good to see you again. I got to watch her today doing math. I didn't know what they were doing, so glad she knew and I didn't have to.
Ooh, that's bad if you didn't know what they were doing. We will now have a moment of silence. Thank you. We will start looking at number 4, the agenda. Do I have any questions or comments? If you wait, we'll wait for you folks to slide out. Go right ahead. I don't blame you. Quick, run. You're welcome to stay, of course. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions or comments about the agenda? None. Number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Do I have any questions or comments about the consent agenda? I'll give you a moment to go through it. No questions or comments? Public comment will be on Thursday night. Rutherford Proud will be on Thursday night. Is that correct? Okay. And that's going to be, Mr. Tidwell, did you arrange that, or did somebody arrange the Amazing Shake? Okay.
Amazing Shake.
We've got that going. All right. Number 8, instruction.
So we have tab 2, instruction. This is a yearly request. So this is the instruction department requesting permission to make an application to offer credit for special courses under the following guidelines. And this is State Board Rule 05201-3-5-2A. Local school systems may offer special courses not listed in 521-3-.06 on an experimental basis. The Commissioner of Education must approve each course in advance each year. Rutherford County High Schools are requesting approval for the following special course request. Sports officiating, that is the only one, there's a second one, and then leadership are only new requests. So sports officiating and leadership are new requests. Critical thinking, writing lab, Civil War history, sports history, survey of pop culture, and World War II history are all renewals.
Questions or comments?
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
All these are great, but I want to tell you, I don't know if y'all know this, but we have we're in a drought for officials. They're getting harder and harder to find. So the fact that we can grow some young people to want to be officials is fantastic. And I can't imagine that anywhere else in the state they would have this. Did we create this program ourselves, or?
Dr. Martin, who do we steal from? Anybody? Or is it ours? Which school came up with it?
We will get an answer for you by Thursday.
It's okay, it's okay. This is just fantastic because
We're proud, so it's okay.
TSSAA has trouble getting enough officials. That's fantastic.
Any other comments? Thank you. We will go to number 2.
I would just like to point out on that one, as long as we don't run into, every time we bring up special course requests, it terrifies me because we had a board meeting on March 12th, 2020, to one of the special course requests at that time was infectious disease. And I remember sitting right where Dr. Chastain was reading those going, this seems like bad timing, this seems like bad timing. Whew. So I think we're okay right now.
Okay.
All right, so next we have graduation contract with MTSU. So it's 23-24 Rutherford County Schools graduation calendar was approved by the board on November 9th, 2023. This is the graduation as presented. Dr. Martin has to work on this for months at a time. We still have some discrepancies that we are definitely not thrilled about. The costs seem to go up in some other areas, and some of them are as needed without a true amount, but we have to get a contract moving so that we can have graduation. And if you guys want to ask Dr. Martin any questions about it, it's definitely still has some concerns.
We're depending on you. Number 3.
All right, so these are preliminary growth positions for 24-25. So due to the upcoming job fair on February 24th, Curriculum Instruction is requesting to post priority new certified positions for the 24-25 school year in hard-to-fill areas. These positions will be funded through additional TISA revenue in the 24-25 school year received due to an increase in student enrollment during the 23-24 school year. ESL positions are going to be required to meet the 1-to-35 teachers student ratio required by Tennessee State Board of Education. And you'll see those on the next page. These are our priority requests. I hope. Yes. I hope it's on the next page.
Yeah, it is.
It's on the old one, yep.
Looking at it.
So I'm going to talk just quickly about these. So we have 3 elementary schools that last year shared an interventionist position, behavior interventionist, so we request that each elementary school has a full one. The principal and AP, one for Church Street and one for Roy Waldron Annex. A transition coach, behavior support, and the location probably is at the Roy Waldron Annex as well. I figured that would be that one. Teacher position, our priorities right now are 14. So this includes arts, career technical education, core grade level, and then behavior support. That number may change. That is a very low number for growth positions to only have 14, but you guys know when we start looking at the budget, we try to hit 1 to 20 before we grant a position and 1 to 25 or 1 to 30 in middle and high school to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. We just talked to our teacher advisory committee about that same thing. They asked about lowering class sizes. I said I would love to, but ultimately when it comes down to making sure we're funding things, we're going to fund it based on the way that we hit those class size averages. So right now we're hoping to only have 14. That may change as enrollment continues to shift. 25 ESL teachers, that is of today, to meet our 1 to 35 ratio. That is probably going to continue to increase. Special education, 16. This is a little bit higher, but that also includes moving positions to both of those locations between Roy Waldron Annex and Church Street. And then counselors, we of course have to have one at Church Street, one at the Roy Waldron Annex, and then we have a couple schools that are still having 1.5 or a half a position that we're trying to firm up based on our enrollment numbers. Because this always gets asked, we are not looking to fund these positions this year. This is for next year. But in order for us to make sure we get quality candidates, we need to go ahead and at least, I can't post any position without the school board's approval. And so that's what this request is. It'll be part of our formal budget request as well, but we don't want to wait until June to post these. There'll be nobody left.
So we'll be able to possibly do some potential hiring
Yeah, we can-
at the
we can-
job fair.
Post and hire, because we have enough openings to be able to cover these, but like the principal and AP, we at least want the principal's names because people will go to a principal. And so we may not be able to fill the schools if we don't have a principal named. They won't start, but
Sounds good. Questions, comments?
Ms. Braden?
Yes, sir.
On the ESL, the 25 growth positions, is that to get to the ratio today?
yes, sir.
So, but are we not going to anticipate needing more ESL based on the amount of growth that we had in that category?
I'd be shocked, but we are again just trying to, these are the positions that we have to meet ratios. I would be shocked if we don't need more than this. I'd also be shocked if we could find 25 ESL teachers.
Understood.
Ms. Bratton?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Going back to ESL teachers, so Claire sat in the meeting today with Megan, and so was Dr. Justine and Mark. I think that the board will be, it will behoove the board to hear the programs and the changes that they're doing for the ESL, because it also will speak into the need for for the 25 positions, because they're making a lot of changes. In my opinion, I believe they're good changes, and it's happening across all grade bands for elementary school, middle school, and high school. There still is a need for high school, especially for those kids that are coming here that are older, because they're still a little bit, they're not caught up, and it's going to be hard to catch them up. But there is a solution in place that could help combat with that. So I know this is not general discussion, but the fact that we're talking about ESL teachers and the need for the 25, I would like to make a request for her to come and present that in one of our board meetings, because I think it'd be great for everyone to hear and see what all is doing in this district. So I know this has been a concern from me and Ms. Maxwell, and we've been working on this for a while, so that'll be great if you guys can show that. That'd be great. Thank
Let me
you.
make sure I have what you were saying. You want a request for Ms. Turnbow to present the
New
new
plan.
curriculum and the new
The
plan?
new
Okay.
plan that they're coming, that they presented to us of what they're gonna, how they're gonna, the changes that they're making within the ESL program for the whole entire district.
Okay.
And they're good changes,
They
so
are good changes.
they're very good changes.
I think I got it. Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Chloe?
assistant principals, do we have any assistant principals sharing jobs now?
Yes, sir. At the middle school and elementary school, we still do.
How many of those do we have?
Believe 3 at the middle school, then we have 1 that is Rocky Fork Middle and Laverne High School. I feel like we have 1 at the elementary level too. I'd have to go look at those to see, but that'll be the part of our next budget rounds, because it's effective to have the extra person, but it's less effective than having them there full time.
Yeah, my concern is we put 2 assistant principals at Church Street and Roy Waldron, and we still got other
Yeah.
positions open out here. I think we need to focus on getting those filled.
Yeah, 1 per school. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, number 9, legal.
We have an out-of-county transfer student number 1. The board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. The student is remanded for a group fight. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. Director of Schools' recommendation is to deny admission.
If you have any questions, you need to direct those to Monica over the next couple of days. Number 10, financial matters.
This is a new school support organization, so this is the board recognition of the Blackman JROTC. Blackman High School is an RCS school support organization. Per RCS Board Policy 2.404, only a group or organization that's entered into a written cooperative agreement with the board may use the name, mascot, or logo of a school or the school district to solicit or raise money, materials, property, security, services, or other things of value. Blackman JROTC has provided all information requested from the board's written cooperative agreement and can be recognized as an RCS SSO. It is noted that this SO has not applied and to receive an IRS determination letter to be recognized as a 501c3 nonprofit entity that is in compliance with the BOE written cooperative agreement. The IRS letter allows the SSO to opt and operate out of a checking account that's separate from the Blackman High School student activity funds. Until that determination letter is applied for and received, the Booster Club will utilize Blackman High School student activity funds for all of its financial activities and be subject to the BOE financial policies and procedures. So once they apply, but we knew they wanted to go ahead and get this started, so we didn't want to get stuck in the paperwork process. If something happens and they choose not to, then they'll just operate underneath the school.
Will they have to come back after the
Yeah, just as a
IRS letter comes, then
formal-
we'll have to
Yep.
sort of look at this again? Okay. Any other questions? All right. Number 11.
I think we had where are we at? Yep, we have number 2. It's on the back
Sorry.
page, just kind of the
Do
way
I
it
see
works.
Thank you.
Yep, so every school year, we look to see what are our budget priorities, and so I just kind of wanted to throw it out there of what our budget priorities are for a school board as we start developing it. To give everyone of an idea, just watching, our budget process starts in December. We start requesting all of our principals, and Tennessee Code Annotated have to submit a budget on multiple areas, so we ask them to meet with all their leadership teams. We met with all 50 principals over the last 2 weeks, so that concluded last Friday. This week, all of our department chairs, and assistant superintendents are finalizing their budgets, and then we'll have those meetings not next week, the week after that, in anticipation of having all that information ready for the board for our board retreat on our budget. But I'll tell you, our budget priorities last year were staffing, behavior, and then buildings. And those were pretty solid. If anybody has any different ideas, we'll take whatever direction the board wants us to go on as far as budget priorities. But those 3 pretty much cover everything that we are hearing and seeing anyways right now. But open to any discussion, adding anything, something you want us to look at, just want some direction.
Questions or comments?
Ms. Breton?
Yes, Ms. Rosales?
Thank you. So in regards to the priority in this budget and priority discussion, I think this is a good time to bring about the awareness for ESL. I know that we have asked, you requested 25 positions for ESL. However, it doesn't include the positions for bilingual EAs. And in the conversation that I had today with Megan, Dr. Chastain, and Mark, that was a need that they brought up. And we can all agree with everything that's happened in the last 6 months since school started, this population, specifically English as a second language, has grown quite significantly to the point that we're seeing that the funding is not there because of how the formula is set. So, and I don't want to get into and talk about the perception of why that is happening and bring the politics into it. However, this is something that is we have a need right now for EAs, bilingual EAs, because we do have this population that is growing, and compared to the year before, it's at 7,000 students, and we don't know what it's going to be like for the following year if the trend continues. So I think that our priority should be to fund staff for English as a second language.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Number 11, engineering and construction.
So on that previous one, if the board members have anything else you want us to add, just let me know, so as we start working towards building the budget, we can add it. Rocky Fork Middle School request, Principal Jennifer Clark is requesting to construct a 10-by-8 wooden structure at the baseball softball field. The structure will be used as a concession stand for all sports teams. Anticipated material cost is $2,500 and will come from funds raised by the baseball and softball teams. Parent group will provide the labor. Engineering and construction have reviewed the request and recommends approval.
Questions? Comments? Thank you. I'd like to know what the bed is.
Of getting done in time? I don't know.
Number 12, insurance.
Insurance, so something I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention. I mentioned it last time. Our employees definitely benefited from our insurance. I would like to recommend us to go ahead and start, I think Mr. Young mentioned this, to bring back our insurance committee to some degree. As we start looking at insurance, Brian and I, of course, have started preliminary budgets for next year. Right now, we're sitting at about $53 million is our insurance for employees, which is great, but that's 10% of our budget. goes towards medical insurance. That doesn't include salaries, Medicare, Social Security. I mean, I don't know how sustainable that is. Actually, I do. It's not sustainable. It's been great for us to be able to do, but we're going to have to start looking at some different ways, or that's just ballooning out of control. And that's less, so it's actually less than it was in previous years. By going to the state plan, it is much less than it's been, but it's still high. And I mean, I benefit from it. I have 2 people in my family that we are very costly, and so, but it's very high.
So do you want me to appoint an insurance committee? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
for sure.
Next time we meet. Okay, that's fine. Number 13, financial report.
All right, if you all will, you should have a financial report. It's our normal 2-page document that we look at. So the first page has 141, so we're only looking at 141 tonight. General purpose school fund, so you will see kind of where we are in revenues. Property tax has only brought in 16 million so far. That's to be expected based on when this was run, because everyone's paying those through escrow and all those different types of things right now. I wanted to highlight that one because that also hits us on Fund 177. So you may hear from your teachers in your schools or principals, and we've talked about this at each one of our principal meetings, that they may have had projects approved last year that we haven't gotten to yet. Fund 177 is the largest majority funded out of property tax. We can't start doing the projects until the money gets here. And so it's usually about 6 months behind. Couple other ones, you'll see sales tax, a good trend. It got back up to what we had estimated. It had been running 97, 98%, and now it was back over 100%. I'm sure that had to do with the holidays as well, because it's always a month behind reporting. A couple other ones to just look at that we always talk about is investment income. You'll see that an investment income only look to bring in 104, and it's midway through the page. It's 44,110. We look to estimate bringing in 104,000 a month, and we're bringing in 360,000 a month. And so it is extremely strong. And then the other one is TISA, which of course is a huge amount. We hear about local funds quite a bit, but I think it's very good to point out that TISA is what gives us the largest amount of our funding. So we last month did include some growth funds and some outcome funds, and we received 34 million alone from TISA last month. So that is always going to be a little bit higher in the percentage because this is split out over 12 months and we only receive TISA payments for 10 months. On the back side, we have our expenditures. And so in the middle of the page, of course, you've got your expenditure lines, you've got your budget estimate. You'll see our original budget estimate was 518 million. We are now up to 538 because we have added revenue from voluntary pre-K, and then we added the 17 million from the Governor's Innovative Schools Model Grant. So that's what the difference is from 518 to now 538 at the very top. But now looking at expenditures, in the middle of the page shows you what percent of the budget we have used so far this year. And then to the far right is what percentage was used that month. And so you will see we're very much in line. We're half past the year at this point, still trending very well. The one that we always watch, of course, and we'll watch this year as well, is that towards the end of the year on June 20th, we will have the teacher payroll that we talked about last month. It'll hit for June, it'll hit for July, it'll hit for August, and summer school funding will hit as well. And so that'll be something that we are watching all of our salary line items again, and we'll do a cleanup amendment to cover any of that. But just wanted you to have an idea of where we are. Everything's still looking very well to meet our balanced budget from last year, and plan to be able to do that again this year.
Questions, comments? All right. Director's update.
Yep, so open positions, so it's a little bit of a weird time for us because we are moving positions from this year that weren't filled into new positions for next year. So I'm sure there's a little bit of discrepancy in the number of open positions that we have. Right now, certified that were listed by principals, and not every school submitted, so it probably tells me not every school has them. But right now, we have 10 certified openings. So very promising. EA-wise, we have 21 classified openings. My guess is there's some special education certified openings that we've already transferred for next year that the principal didn't list because they're losing that position for next year. So of 6,800 employees to have 31 openings, I will take that every day of the week. So we had 21 EAs and 21 classified and 10 certified.
I remember when it was hundreds.
Hundreds. So thank you, the board, for your support of salaries, and this has helped us be in a lot better place than our other school districts.
I think so too. Anyone else?
Oh, I missed. It has a second page, doesn't it? I'm wrong. Bad news. Sorry. We have 23 certified openings.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't flip over to the second. I was like, that is not all of the schools. That is my fault, Dr. Andrew.
No problem, and a third of them were sped
Ed.
positions, and some have not been filled this year.
Yes.
We were able
So
to do their numbers without those.
23 certified, which is still great, and 52 classified. But I can tell you two of those schools have 12 of them, and just about all of them are special education.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, 23 certified and 52 classified.
Oh, so it's not 10 certified and 20?
No, I didn't read my second page.
Oh, okay, so it's 23 certified,
And 52 certified, or classified.
classified.
23 certified, 52 classified.
Okay, so this is not right.
But
Director Sullivan?
Yes.
Could you tell me, how are we doing in our pipeline? I know we were able to get several last year that came on board that had been former EAs that had some college that were able to finish up and become, do we have some?
It's less now because the Grow Your Own through the state Lipscomb partnership fell off. And so now it all runs through UTK, which is a little bit farther for us. And so it's still working, but it is not to the number we had last year where we were able to put 20 and 30 people into it. It's not to that level. Anything?
Why did it move to UTK?
The state flagship university, be my guess. And I'm sure there's some other things with, did EdTPA have something to do with it, Dr. Anthony? Yeah. Yeah, so you have, a couple things. One, I'm sure some of that was federally funded through ESSER funds. I'm sure that was part of the grants that the state allocated. The second is for educational certification. You either have to do lots of loopholes or do something called EdTPA. And EdTPA is basically a year of your life of putting everything that you were doing into a portfolio. And there are some universities who just say, forget it, I'm a private university, I'm not doing that to do EdTPA. And I would imagine Lipscomb was one of them.
Okay.
but the state universities still are hanging on
They are.
to Ed TPA.
And some of them just renewed it, so.
Oh,
I have some
How
statistics
unfortunate.
for our
Please
teachers
do. Go
now,
for
if
it.
that's
Go for it.
okay. Enrollment right now, in December, we had 28 completers for career and technical and 21 for our math and science program that was finishing up their 18 months. We have 40 enrolled right now in CTE, 20 in our math and science, and then we have one auditing right now with CTE, looking to see if that might be a potential, and 14 in math and science that are coming on board right now. So we have several in the pipeline, and being the first in the state on that, that does give us an edge, and we're looked to as the model for having our own program and growing our own. So we're looking to expand that with the humanities programs if everything gets approved with SRAB to help us in a couple other areas, and then hopeful that eventually we can run our own special education and ESL pipeline.
It helps us tremendously.
Yes.
Having teach now, it is phenomenal.
yes, ma'am.
It would be harder to do because you have to have all the state, we have to have approval to be able to license that. Are you talking about us licensing it? We have to have a state, a formula to be able to go through like an entire curriculum. And if that's our problem right now with the humanities and English and the foreign languages. SREB doesn't have a curriculum that we can adopt and follow to be able to license people.
So if I'm hearing correctly, you're saying we're having difficulties finding teachers to fulfill the foreign languages?
we have difficulties getting the approval to offer those courses.
Oh,
Your
to offer
four-year colleges have a great stronghold on some of those programs.
Okay.
It's a nice way of putting it, wasn't it, Dr. Anthony?
Very sweet.
It even looked to us before we started developing our own CTE, which is our first division for Grow Your Own. They were having difficulties to manage that, and they looked to Rutherford County to help them do that, so that was a natural first step in. And then our needs assessment was showing that we needed math and science, and so we was able to work with SRAB, which is out of Atlanta, to get a curriculum framework. We proposed that they expand that with humanities last year. They were unable to fulfill that need, and that's why they're looking at it again. And so we put our application in again, and hopefully that we'll be able to work with them to help develop that.
Well, one thing I had spoken to a representative was that if there is a person that has a 4-year degree, even though it's not here from the United States, but if they're coming from another country and they have a 4-year degree and they speak that language, is that transferable? Could they be a teacher and teach?
It all depends on their transcript.
Right, exactly. It does. I understand that, and that's a valid point that it's a transcript. But just to think outside of the box creatively, being creative and trying to bring teachers to fulfill these positions if they already know the language, could this be an alternate option for someone who is a native speaker, who speaks the language, who can read and write and all that, and they have credentials? Is there any way that can be transferred into a license for a teacher? And I know there's a lot that has to go with it, but
Right now, the universities are looking at the degrees from Europe, and they're counting their 4-year degree as a 3-year program, so they would have to go back and finish their final year. The only university that we found that would work with us on those issues was Lipscomb. They had their own international studies department, which kudos to them for having that vision. So they're in that developmental stage, hoping to be able to start helping those who have degrees from overseas to be able to translate that and pick that extra year of credit that's needed to buffer that for licensing. They're not there yet, but that's what they're working on.
that's great to hear.
Anyone else? Anything else, Doctor?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. So we are starting to move on behavior positions. So we have our autism spectrum disorder classrooms in multiple locations and our behavior intervention classrooms. And so we're going to start, and so I envision the board hearing some of this. Those positions, most of them, if not all of them, are going to move to Roy Waldron Annex, which you have some staff members, Plainview, Walter Hill, who may not want to go with that. But that just helps us be able to put that into one location, if at all possible. So if you hear that's something we're working on, and I'm sure principals will work to try to keep those staff members in open positions if they have them. So we'll be working on that over the next couple weeks. WIDA testing, I sent an email to all RCS yesterday. So that is a huge test for our students. TCAP is the big umbrella. We think of TCAP as just the test kids take in April, but TCAP also involves the English Language Proficiency Assessment, which is, we use WIDA in Tennessee for this final year. And basically, students have to score a certain ranking in overall and then in reading comprehension in order to test out of ESL, if you will. And so that allows them, after they get that score, to move to a transition 1, transition 2, 3, and 4. Basically, that means it allows their course offerings to open up, especially as you get to high school. Kids that have direct service are going to be limited in what type of course offerings they have. So it is a hugely important test for our students that we try to focus on, but it doesn't get as much of attention. We mentioned it just a little bit about the ESL growth positions. So something I think that needs to just be brought up is TISA funds a year behind. For big districts like us, that's a problem, just because we're growing with enrollment and educating these students based on last year's funding. So just to give you a quick example for just one average new ESL student, and I know the board has this, but I'll mention it for the public, the base of TISA is $6,860. If a student receives direct instruction in English as a second language, the middle tiers, they would bring in another $4,116. if they attend a title-eligible school, which we have dozens of schools that are not Title I schools, but they're title-eligible. We just choose to only recognize 60% or above. The majority of our schools have over 40% poverty, which would make them title-eligible. Then they receive an additional $1,715. If they're economically disadvantaged, it's an extra funding. All that to say, the average student for ESL and funding that we've already received next year will generate about $13,000. And so 9 million local dollars, or dollars that we're educating on right now, that we won't receive funding for next year. And so that is, it's a huge, huge, huge strain. So.
Ms. Bratton?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Selvin, for bringing that data, because we know there's things that are out of our control, and unfortunately, this is out of our control, and it does involve politics, unfortunately, but I appreciate you giving us that data, because then I was able to take that data and send it to other people that have higher influences, and to bring them aware of what the impact this is for the local government, because we're having to upfront these costs. And the problem is not whether we want to educate the children. We do. We want to educate these children, and we have, and we're required by federal law. We have to. So it just, unfortunately, things come down to funding. And even this year, with the stipends for the student stipend, the money that was allocated also was supposed to be shared for the infrastructure stipend. And even with that, we didn't even get all of the money that we should have received had there been enough money in the fast growth stipends that we qualified. We didn't even get the funding for that either. So I think that we all need to work together to bring awareness in the impact that we're seeing with the influx of students that are coming in after the school year start, and how that impacts us on the funding side of it.
One more thing. Last thing is Thursday, and just a reminder, board, I will not be here Thursday. I will be at budget. And so Dr. Martin will be filling in for me as my designee, so she will be filling in. I will be at budget. Normally I would switch that and I would be here instead, but since we are asking for basically funding in a debt ratio, I need to be there at budget. And it's weird how their meeting fell this month. Normally it is health and ed, followed right by budget, and for some reason there was a month in between, or a week in between. I don't know why, it's just the way that it fell. So sorry I won't be here. That is not the norm, but I need to be at budget.
We'll be fine. Ms. Rosales, I think you're going to have a report for us on Thursday.
Yes, Thursday.
Thank you. Number 17, general discussion. Is there anyone who?
Ms. Bratton?
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, a couple
Tidwell?
things I was wanting to get an update on. The innovative grant, how are we looking on that?
I have broken down all of the cost, and I guess cost isn't the right word, all of the allocations and expenditures that we've already used. I got the nod on expenditures. So we have that broken down by school, by level. So for all of our high schools, for all of our middle schools, the next step, and I'm happy to share that, the next step is to look at the remainder of that amount and make sure that what each school has planned meets, falls within that allocated amount. So I would say by the next board meeting, or at least if not then, the first part of March, we could have a pretty detailed accounting of where we are on those projects.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yep.
If it's possible.
Anyone else?
Ms. Bratton, I got another.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is kind of two-part. One is about the portables. I'd like to get an update on the portables, but second question about that. You mentioned ESSER funds earlier. Have we finished out our ESSER funds?
We're trying to use them as quickly as possible. They have to all be.
Can we use them on portables?
No, because we wouldn't have them all by that time period. And that would be a harder, so it has to connect to the spread of COVID-19, and that would, we've been able to finagle some weird things. I'm not sure we could, but great idea.
Connected some bridges, but not.
I'm not sure I can connect that one. Great idea, though. Yes, then it all has been state approved, so yes. Great idea, though.
Yeah. And Mr. Lee, can we do we have any further update on that? Or are we still kind of waiting on the next steps?
No, they're both out for bid. We'll have bids on the 8th, which I think is Friday. Today's the 6th. No, it's Thursday.
Thursday.
On the, what I'm going to call the regular portable bid, and the alternative portable bids are due the next week. So by the 22nd, we may have both bids in.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, I had a question. I know Ms. Ralston's not here tonight, but that Every Kid's a Hero is very near and dear to my heart, and I know it's going to be at Siegel High School. I got that. Is that what we said?
Stewart's Creek High School.
Stewart's Creek, I'm sorry, Stewart's Creek. How are we coming on that? Have they met with, Mr. Colvin was very concerned. I hope that we were able to touch base with him and get him going what's going on, because he called me not knowing what was going on.
We met with him last week, Dr. Ralston and I, so we have all of the logistics worked on, and all the information that they requested, we have already sent to them. He is going to be following up with us in the next week or two to make sure he's emailing all of our teachers so they can get their avatars to the students. And all of that information, we are working closely with Stewart's Creek High School to...
Do you have a date? Do we know?
Yes, we do have a
What date is that going to be?
Let me just look at my calendar.
Is it in April or March?
Yes, ma'am, it's in April. April 10th is our date, and our rain date is April 11th.
Okay.
Dr. Sullivan, clarify, 9th, the 9th is the regular portable bid, which is Friday. And then the alternative portable bid is the 27th.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update on that, because I wanted to make sure that that happened. I really talked it up to a lot of some of the EAs and teachers that I know. I think it's going to be a tremendous thing. And like I said, there are a few times that a lot of these kids get to have a day that's just theirs. And I'm glad we're going to be doing this.
Anyone else?
Ms. Bratton?
Yes, ma'am.
I have several things. One, can we get an update on the bad meal debt and the loans with that we had requested, and how much that's offset, where we're at with that? And then second is, I know we're putting attention to the Shaker Awards, but we also have BizTown as well. If we want to, they're going to have their event this week in Nashville. And so it'd be great if we can get some kids to come from, you guys can pick from whatever school to come and speak into it, because I think it'd be great for the board to hear what all is involved and planned for them to be ready for this kind of event. It's pretty neat, and I'm excited to go Friday. So if any board member wants to come and join me, I will be going Friday, hopefully.
Anyone else? Ms. Darby?
Move to adjourn.
Ms. Maxwell?
Second.
We are adjourned.